Welcome to Soz Talks Money on Valuetainment. I'm your host, Adam Sosnick, and I'm here to help you build your wealth and save that money. On today's episode, we're going to make sure that you have a game plan for your money. Let's talk money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money.
All right, question for you. When I bring up the word budget, what comes to mind, right? Budget. Because let me tell you something. When I ask people this question, not a lot of positive connotations surrounding the word budget. Let me give you an example. When I talk to people, here are the type of words they use to describe having to do a budget. They say that it's not fun, that it's boring, that it's restrictive, that it's negative, and it just straight up sucks. But let me tell you something. The only thing worse than doing a budget is not doing a budget. All right? So let's get into a couple quick stats. Stats for you. According to a Gallup poll, 2/3 of American families do not do a written budget, straight up. Even worse, according to Forbes, 3/4 of Americans, that's 75%, live paycheck to paycheck. Did you catch me on that? 2/3 of American families don't do a written budget, and 75% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Do you think there's a correlation with that? I straight up think there is a correlation with that. So we understand that budgeting is not fun, it's not that cool, it's restrictive, but it's something you have to do. In fact, I talk about the 6 principles of wealth. This is number one, having a game plan for your money. So today, we're gonna do a budget today, but we're gonna understand something. We're gonna make it fun, we're gonna make it easy, we're gonna make it effective, and it's gonna help you get better with your money. So can we all agree that we should start doing a little bit more budgeting, or what I call having a game plan for your money? Do we agree with that? Can I get a comment? Can I get a yes? Because I think you should. So let's keep going. There's something that I've recognized as the biggest problem when it comes to budgeting. And the reality is this, the biggest problem that I've seen is you just straight up don't want to face the truth. You don't want to face the music. There's a problem with that. You don't want to look under the hood. Like, you ever been driving down the street and there's something going on with your car and you're like, I don't know what that is, but I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that. I'm just going to, and I'm not going to deal with it. That's the thing with the budget. You don't want to like actually open up the hood, get in there and be like, damn, I thought I was making 50 grand a year, but I'm only making 42. Damn, I thought I was only spending 30 grand a year, but I'm actually spending 47. It's like, oh, what's going on here? A lot of people don't want to look under the hood and face the truth. It's cool, I get it, but you need to be honest and you need to be accurate with the amount of money you're making and the amount of money you're spending. There's only you going to know. You're the only person that's going to know, or you and your significant other. So why lie to yourself? All right, cool. So we understand that budget is a game plan for your money. Majority of Americans aren't straight up not even doing a budget, and even higher percentage of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So why be that person? Why live your life that kind of way? So if I'm telling you that principle number one of the 6 principles of wealth is having a game plan for your money, let's implement this game plan. All right. So what we have here now are some tips, some tools that you could utilize to have a better game plan for your money. First and foremost, there's something called the 50-30-20 rule. The 50-30-20 rule, that's this little pie chart right here. We'll probably have it up on the screen for you as well. 50-30-20 rule. Now, what's the 50-30-20 rule? I'll tell you what the 50-30-20 rule is. It basically stipulates this, that 50% of your income should go to your needs, 30% of your income can go to your wants, but 20% of your income needs to go to your financials. So let's break that down a little bit. Let's unpack that a little bit. When we talk about 50% goes to your needs, what are your needs? What are your needs? These are things you just straight up can't live without, all right? These are things that are essential, and there's things that you require in your life, right? What do you require? What do you need? What's essential? Well, a roof over your head, right? You need transportation. You need to be able to get around. You need food. Right? These are things that are straight up essential. So now let's talk about the 30%, which is your wants. Now your wants are things that you can live without, but they're things that you kind of want in your life, things that you desire, something that you really, really want to have, but they're not essential. They're not required. This is going shopping. This is going to games. These are just spending money. These are wants, but not necessarily needs. Cool, there's wants. We want to live the best life. We want to have a good time. We want to go out and party. We want to have a good time. I get it. But those are wants. And last but not least, you got 20% that goes to your financials. Now, what are your financials? This is what I call the big 3: paying off debt, saving that money, and investing that money. All right, so if you just do the math here, 80% of your budget can go to your needs and your wants, 20% should go to your financials. So you understand that something with this 50-30-20 rule, it doesn't mean you can't go live your best life. It just means limit it. Limit it. 50% on your needs, 30% of your wants, 20% on your financials. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There's a template for you right now, a 50-30-20 rule that you can implement in your life off top. Cool. Moving right along, let's talk about the dynamics of a budget. First and foremost, let's just actually define a budget. What is a budget? A budget is your income minus your expenses. I feel like Vanna White over here. Your income minus your expenses. Your income in green and your expenses in red. So let's talk about your income minus your expenses, aka a budget. So what I talk about with your income is you need to be focusing on making that money. That's income. Welcome to America, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about capitalism. It's all about making that money. And this is your offense, right? So if you're a sports fan, you understand that you want to put up points on the board, right? This is your offense. You want to make that money. Now, when you talk about expenses, you want to limit your expenses. This is your defense, right? This is limiting the amount of money that's going out the door. This is limiting spending that money. This is limiting consumerism. So I'll give you a sports analogy. We know that I use sports analogies around here. I love basketball, right? So who remembers a guy called Steve Nash, right? Steve Nash was a two-time NBA MVP in the early to mid 2000s. I'm guessing probably 2005, 2004, 2006, somewhere around that range. Two-time MVP. Now, what was the problem with Steve Nash? Steve Nash's team with Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion had a great team. They would put up the most points in the league. They'd put up 120 points a game. But what was their problem? They would give up 125 points a game. So here you go, you're scoring, you're winning all these awards, that's great. But you can't win the big one because you give up too much points. So what's my point for you with this income minus expenses? It doesn't matter if you make 100 grand a year if you spend 110 grand a year, right? You're giving up a lot of points on the other side. But on the flip side, let's say you make, on average, the average American makes 50 grand a year. If you make 50 grand a year, but you only spend 40 grand, well, you're winning. You're winning the money game right there. You're implementing a budget. You're limiting your expenses. So boom, here we go. That's your offense versus defense, income minus expenses. So we're going to go down the list here. So income, let's start with income. When you're talking about income, how do you make income? Well, you make income by working, all right? I don't think a lot of people are just sitting around making money doing nothing unless you're collecting unemployment. We won't get into that right now. But if you're just making income, you got to work, right? You got to work. Now, when it comes to work, a lot of times I ask people, do you have a career or do you have a job? So I'm asking you, do you have a career or do you have a job? So what do we mean by that? So like I have a career. I've been working in financial services for a life settlement company for 13 years, right? My company is great at this. I have a career. This is what we do. Now there's been times in my life where I had a job. I was a substitute teacher, right? I was a club promoter. I did stand-up comedy. I did some nightlife stuff. I worked at a hotel. Those were jobs. Now I have a career. So one of the things that the people ask me is like, how can I make more money, right? How can I make more money? Well, let me tell you something. A couple different things. Number one, the riches are in the niches. What do I mean? Be the freaking best at what you do. When I was growing up, did I say I want to be the #1 life settlement guy on the planet? No. But I found myself entering to this world where I was like, all right, cool, I got this job. Let me get good at it. Let me get really good at it. Let me start making some serious money here. Let me specialize in this thing. Boom, next thing you know, I'm making 6 figures and then some every single year because I was a specialist. Speaking of specialist, there's a difference between being a specialist. So if you're, I'm the best lawyer in the world. I'm the best architect in the world. I'm the best editor in the world. I'm a specialist. Straight up, I am the best. I'm the best stand-up comedian in the world. I'm the best basketball player in the world. I am great at what I do. Versus someone who's a jack of all trades. What do I mean by a jack of all trades? Kind of like when I was in my 20s, I did a little stand-up comedy. I was a substitute teacher. I did some club promoting. I was at a sports agency. So when people say, yo, what does Saz do? They're like, I don't know. He does a lot of shit. Who knows? So what do you do? What do you do? Are you a specialist? Are you like the bomb at something? Or are you just kind of jack of all trades? In Miami, where I'm from, there's so many people that are jack of all trades. What do I mean by that? Well, they're a bartender, but then they do real estate, but then they're going to invite you to their club, but then they're going to, maybe fix your house, and then they got a side hustle credit card business. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Focus on something. Be a specialist at something. So we're talking about income now. People ask me, how can I make more income? Well, cool. Be a specialist at something. Have a career with something rather than just a job. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a job and collecting a paycheck. Let's talk about that a little bit. If you collect a paycheck, you understand that you're getting paid once or twice a month. Cool. Stable. Steady. Boom. 5 grand a month. Boom. 5 grand a month. Boom. 5 grand a month. Cool. That's something that's stable, that you can have predictable income. But the difference with that is, are you irreplaceable or expendable? Let me say that again. Are you irreplaceable or expendable? So a lot of times what's going on in America today and all over the world, people are getting fired. Unemployment claims are all-time high. So they're looking at, my list of who's working for me. Who's working for me here? Okay, this first person, oh, she's the bomb. We're not letting her go. This one right here, he's kind of a slacker. Oh, he might be the first on the chopping block. So these are the type of conversations that CEOs have, all right, or CFOs have when they're like, what should we do with this person? So are you irreplaceable? Are you awesome at what you do? Or are you expendable? All right? If you're expendable, you might bounce from job to job, right? Like we talked about, job to job, job to job. But if you're irreplaceable, inexpendable, straight up, you have a career for the rest of your life. So I know if things don't work out at my company that I've been for 13 years, I'm not worried at all. Because I'll have a line of people out the door being like, oh, you come work for me now, bro. Okay? That's the difference between being a specialist and being irreplaceable versus being someone who's a jack of all trades and just someone who's replaceable and just kind of does their 9-to-5 thing and collects their paycheck. So moving right along, you're collecting your paycheck, you're making that money, you're making income. Cool, I applaud you, that's awesome. Now here's something else on how people make money. So people make money on sales, commissions, or their seasonal business. So for me, I make a lot of money on sales and commissions. So there might be months where I'm making 40, 50 grand a month, crazy, amazing, awesome month. But there might be months where I'm making, 4 or 5 grand a month, right? So money can kind of come in the door and out like that versus something that's consistent. Now, also in Miami where I'm from, there's a lot of seasonal work. We call season, basically seasons from November to May, right? So you have like bartenders or waitresses or club promoters or like, yo, I'm making 10 grand a month. This is sick. This is awesome. I'm making that money. I'm going to live it up. And then what happens is summer hits in Miami, and now they're making 2 grand a month, or 3 grand a month, or maybe even worse. So they're making high peak income certain times of the year, and then very low income other times of the year. So my question to you is, when you're making these big pops, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, there's been months where I've made 80, 100 grand in a month. I don't just ball out like it's the last time that I'm ever gonna make money. I save that money and I make sure that it lasts. Cool, so my advice to you is if you work in sales and commissions or you have seasonal income is understand that needs to last you for the entire year, not that month, and you need to save that money. Let's keep moving on. Now we got the gig economy. Now you're making, you're making money driving Uber, you're driving Lyft, you're doing little side hustles, you're getting gigs on Fiverr, you're editing, you're producing, you're doing little things, boom, boom, boom. It's not your main job, it's not your main career, but I respect the side hustle mentality. Respect. Kudos to you. Maybe you're making 50 grand in real life in a real job, and now you make another 20 grand. That's 70 grand. That can be an amazing situation where you're paying off debt with that extra 20 grand, or you're saving that money for a down payment. Cool, respect to you if you got a side hustle. And I know where my real estate people at. There's a lot of people that invest in real estate. Next thing you know, they're getting rental income. Boom, 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 boom. They're making rental income. Respect. All right, that's cool. There's some people, straight up, they get money from their family, from their parents. All good. But just understand that might come to an end at some point. So are you budgeting with that in mind? Last but not least, when people say, Saz, I got to make that money. What do I do? What do I do? One of the things I always say is that your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. Who are you hanging out with? Who do you work closely with? Who are the top 5 people you associate with? It has been said that if you add up the top 5 people that you hang around with the most, that is a telltale sign of where you'll be in the future. So ask yourself, who am I hanging out with? Am I hanging out with winners and go-getters and hustlers and money makers and people that move the needle and movers and shakers? Or am I hanging out with my same loser friends from high school that smoke weed every day, that whatever, they work their job, they're just kind of going through the motions, they don't read, they don't improve, they don't get better, they're in 12 fantasy football leagues, they're going out to the party, they have zero room for improvement in their life. So ask yourself, who are you hanging out with? All right? So you know who I'm talking to if you know what I'm talking about here. And if you have the type of person that's like, you know what? That makes complete sense. It's all good to go ghost on your friends for 6 months. It's all good to go ghost on your friends for 12 months and say, yo, I got to improve myself and do what I got to do. All right, so there's that. That is all income. That's offense. That's making money. That's careers. That's riches are in the niches. That's not being a jack of all trades. That's being a specialist. That's your network is your net worth. It's understanding that income is the name of the game, and that is offense, and that's where you should focus. And now it's time for the red side of the board, which is your expenses. As we covered at the beginning, you want to limit your expenses. Your expenses are your defense, right? You don't want to spend that money, you want to save that money, but understand that everybody has the same big 3 expenses. Now, what are the big 3 expenses, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Well, number 1 is your housing. Everybody needs a place to live. So when we're talking about housing, we're talking about your rent, your mortgage. We're talking about utilities, internet, cable. If you're a home owner, you understand that you have taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Collectively, this should be at the very most 33% of your income. So, right? So most people spend between 25 and 33% of their net income on their housing. Cool, that's housing. That's number one of the big three expenses. What's number two? Number two is your transportation. Your transportation is how you get around, how you move and operate every single day. These are your car payments. This is your insurance. This is your gas. This is your Uber. This is your Lyft. This is going on a subway. This is taking a freaking bus if you still do that. Cool. This should be at the very most 10 to 20% of your income. That's number two of your big three expenses. All right, number three in the big three expenses, number three is your food and beverage, your F&B. Now, what is your F&B? This is your groceries. This is dining out or eating in or cooking at home. This is, do you go to the bars or clubs on the weekend? This is everything you're doing with eating and drinking and your food and beverage. That's that. So this should be at the very most 10% of your income. If you have a fancy palate, it might be as much as 12, 15%. But I encourage you to keep that below 10% of your income. Cool. So those are your big three expenses. Everybody that's watching this has the same big three expenses. Boom, 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 boom. So if you can understand that those are your big three expenses, you are now 75% of the way done with your budget. Congratulations. You're almost there. So you understand you want to live your best life. You got it. You want to live in the place you want to live. You want to drive what you want to drive. You want to eat and drink what you want to drink. But those decisions have repercussions because you only have so much room in your budget. Now, what else do you have in your budget? After you do your big three, everyone has other expenses that they need to account for. People have insurance, whether you have health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. People have childcare, school, pets, all those types of things. You got cell phone, apps, gym, recreation, entertainment, shopping, beauty. These are all consumerism, materialism, spending that money, living your best life in the way you want to live. Cool, I respect that. So understand that these are things that you have to account for within your budget. Cool, moving right along. Let's talk about some stuff that I have right here. The whole name of the game is that I'm more concerned about your net worth than your Netflix. Let's unpack that a little bit. I'm more concerned about your net worth than your Netflix. It actually has a double meaning. What do I mean by that? I'm more concerned about you making that money, networking, and working on your side hustle than I am with you just Netflixing and chilling. All right, cool. What do I also mean by that? I'm also not concerned about your $10 expenses every single month. That's not a big deal with Netflix. I'm worried about your big three expenses. So you'll hear a lot of people, you got to cut out the little things, and you know, the $2 cups of coffee, you got to cut that out, and your Netflix, that's $10. Who gives a shit about that, okay? Focus on the big three expenses and focus on your net worth. Now, when we're talking about net worth, what is net worth? Well, net worth is the entire name of the game, my friends. Nobody cares about what you make this week, this month, this year. They want to know what your net worth is. Now, what is your net worth? Your net worth are your total assets minus your total liabilities. I'll say it again. Your net worth are your assets minus your liabilities. So you can see down here, your net worth, assets in green, liabilities in red. So when you're doing your budget, understand there's a big picture in mind. It's not about every single month or every single week or every single year. It's about working on your collective net worth overall. So when you're doing your budget, you understand your income, you total it up, boom. What's your total? Cool, I made $7,000 this month, amazing. I made $6,500 this month. I made $5,000 this month. I made $10,000. Be accurate and be honest with how much you make. And then on your expenses, total it up. How much did you spend this month, right? Be accurate and don't lie to yourself. That's your income minus your expenses. And I'll leave you with this. This is a great quote by a good buddy of mine. His name is Kelly Olynyk. He plays in the NBA with the Miami Heat. They're in the finals right now. Respect. He said this. He said, how much does it cost to be you? How much does it cost to be you? Does it cost $2,000 a month? Does it cost $5,000 a month? Does it cost $10,000 a month? So what he encourages you to do is add it up, see how much it costs to be you, look back at it, and let's figure out how you can make it cost less to be yourself. That's the whole point of doing the budget. Adding up your income, figuring out your expenses, and cutting out where you need to cut out, and add more money if you need to add more money. This is America, baby. If you're only making $50,000 a year and you want to make $100,000, you can figure it out. I promise you that. So it's all about your net worth. With that being said, let me give you my final takeaways when it comes to having a game plan for your money, aka a budget. Number one, a budget, you do it once a month and it's on the first of the month. First of the month is game day. I've talked about this before, that I learned about the first of the month from one of my favorite rap groups of all time, Bone Thugs and Harmony. They had a song called The First of the Month. And I remember saying, like, what's going on the first of the month? Well, rents do, all right? So you got to be prepared to get ready to pay your bills. That's the first of the month. Shout out to Bone Thugs and Harmony. I know that they're watching this video. They're big fans of valuetainment. Respect. Number two, what I would encourage you to do is do a big budget. I talked about your big three expenses. I'm not worried about your little frappuccinos or your lattes or your Netflix. I'm worried about your big three expenses: housing, your transportation, and your food and beverage. Those are your big three expenses. Focus on a big budget, not the little things. Cool. Number three, I put this here for a reason, because you need to add up your last 3 months. If you're like, dude, I've never done a budget in my life. I got no clue what's coming in the door. I don't know clue what's going out the door. I've never done this. So here's what you do. You add up all your expenses, all your income, everything for the last 3 months. That's why it's number three. Pay stubs, bank and credit card statements, bills, receipts. You add it up, you get an idea of what's going on. Cool, you add it up and now you got something to work with. You have a template to work from. That's number three, your last 3 months. Number four is to understand that things change. You gotta be flexible. There's certain months of the year where you're gonna be spending more than other months. Like, right, Christmas is coming up. We gotta understand you got presents, you got Hanukkah for my Jewish friends. We got New Year's, you're gonna go out and party. Then you got February, it's Valentine's Day. March, April, you got spring break. Then it's summer, you're gonna do a summer vacation. So understand that every single month is different and you need to have a little flexibility within your budget. So things change. Number five, this is huge, huge, huge. Write it down. Straight up, write it down. You say, oh, I do a budget in my head. I kinda know what I'm making. No. That does not work. You need to write it down. Now, if you're not trying to, like, if you're not old school like me, I use a pen and paper. Straight up, pen and paper. But if you're not, you could use a pen and paper. You could use a spreadsheet, worksheet. There's people that use an envelope system. That's if you like cash. Or you can use straight up apps. A lot of people use apps. You got apps like Mint or YNAB or EveryDollar. These are straight up budgeting tools that you can utilize and they're free. Check them out. That's that. That's number five. And last thing, I've said this before and I'll say it again. You need to budget like Brady. What do I talk about with Brady? Who am I talking about? Tom Brady, the GOAT, the greatest football player of our generation. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, but what does he do? He has a game plan going into every single game. He doesn't just show up and be like, all right, I'm playing for Tampa now, I'm playing the Saints, let's figure this thing out. He knows what he needs to do every single game. So what's my point for you with that is that there's 12 months in a year and you need to go in every single month like it's game day and you need a budget like Brady. That's it. That's budgeting. That's having a game plan for your money. If you can do a game plan every single month and implement a budget, I promise you'll end up in the Hall of Fame and be the GOAT of budgeting just like Brady. With that being said, if you have not seen my episode on the 6 principles of wealth, how to win the money game, check that out right here. And if you have not seen my episode on 10 things that are killing your wealth, check that out right here. And if you have not subscribed to Valuetainment Economics, please do so below and smash that like button while we're at it. And last but not least, I promise you, if you do a budget every single month, you'll end up saving that money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money.